Hello, everyone. I'm your sleep sinners for tonight, here to guide you into a peaceful and mysterious slumber. I know many of you use these videos to help you fall asleep. So before we begin, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, I'd love to know where are you watching from and what time is it for you right now. Go ahead, get comfortable, relax, and let the rain and stories take you away. The last light of Novaya Zemlya, Russian Arctic. Chapter 1, Silent Signal. The distress beacon from Outpost Polaris hadn't stopped transmitting for 3 weeks. It was a silence that finally triggered the alarm. Satellite communications specialist Marina Volkova stared at her monitor, tapping her stylus against her desk with increasing urgency. The rhythmic tap-tap-tap matched her racing heartbeat. The research station's daily data packet, temperature readings, atmospheric samples, personnel status, always arrived between 0200 and 0300 hours. Even during the harshest Arctic conditions, the transmission had never been more than 12 minutes late. It was now 0427, and her screen remained blank. Contact Commander Baranov, she told her assistant. Tell him Outpost Polaris has gone dark. Within hours, the rescue operation was underway. Marina stood before the assembled team in the briefing room of the Murmansk Naval Base, her breath visible in the frigid air despite the heating system's constant hum. Outpost Polaris is our most remote climate research station, she explained, pointing to the digital map of Novaya Zemlya, the archipelago separating the Barents and Kara Seas. Established 3 years ago to monitor Arctic methane release and permafrost degradation. Current staff: 5 researchers led by Dr. Alexei Sokolov, one of our most experienced Arctic scientists. Commander Nikolai Baranov, a weathered veteran of Arctic missions, studied the satellite imagery with narrowed eyes. And they've been silent for how long? 26 hours, Marina replied. No emergency transmissions, no distress signals. They simply stopped communicating. What about weather conditions? Lieutenant Ekaterina Petrova asked, zooming in on the map. Clear skies for the past week. Nothing that would interfere with communications. Marina pulled up the most recent images. The station's external cameras transmitted normally until the blackout. Temperature readings were stable. All systems appeared functional. Could it be equipment failure? Someone suggested. Marina shook her head. They have triple redundancy. Primary system backup, an emergency hand crank generator with direct satellite uplink. All 3 would need to fail simultaneously. Or someone disable them all, Commander Baranov said quietly. The room fell silent as the implications settled over them. We'll take the Me 8, Baranov decided. We can reach them in 6 hours if weather holds. He looked around the room. Petrova, you're with me. Dr. Volkova, I want you there to assess the communications issues. Medical team of 2 and 2 security personnel. Marina nodded, already calculating what equipment she'd need. One more thing, Baranov added, his face grim. We're in full polar night. The sun won't rise for another month out there. Whatever happened at Outpost Polaris, it happened in complete darkness. 6 hours later, the helicopter's searchlight pierced the perpetual night as they approached the research station. The facility should have been illuminated. The external lights designed to run constantly during the 4-month polar night. Instead, only one light remained, blinking erratically from the communications tower. Like a dying heartbeat, Marina whispered to herself. The station itself was a modern marvel of Arctic engineering. 6 interconnected modules forming a compact compound, elevated on stilts to prevent snow buildup and heat transfer to the permafrost. Solar panels and wind turbines, useless now in the darkness, stood like sentinels around the perimeter. As they circled for landing, Marina pressed her face against a frosted window, searching for any sign of movement. The station appeared intact from above, No structural damage. No signs of fire or explosion. I'm not seeing any exterior damage, Commander Baranov noted. Petrova, thermal scan? Lieutenant Petrova's fingers flew across her tablet. Minimal heat signatures. Environmental systems appear to be running at reduced capacity. No human-sized thermal readings detected. They could be in the underground shelter. Marina suggested hopefully. The helicopter touched down 50 meters from the main entrance. Rotor wash sending snow spiraling into the darkness. Dressed in Arctic gear with headlamps illuminating their path, the team made their way toward the silent station. Commander Baranov tried the radio again. Outpost Polaris. This is Commander Baranov with rescue team. Do you copy? Only static answered him. At the main airlock, they found the first anomaly. The external door stood partially open, a violation of strict protocol. Arctic survival depended on maintaining the thermal envelope. Someone left in a hurry, Petrova murmured, weapon drawn. Baranov nodded to the security team, who positioned themselves at the entrance. Standard search protocol. Stay together. Headlamps on at all times. Marina's heart pounded as they stepped inside. The airlock cycled normally, but when the inner door opened, they were met with darkness and a blast of frigid air. The internal temperature had plummeted to match the external environment, about minus 30 degrees Celsius. Their headlamps cut through the darkness, illuminating their breath, hanging in crystalline clouds before them. The main corridor appeared normal, if unnaturally silent. The constant mechanical hum of environmental systems was missing. Then their lights reached the common area, and Marina gasped. Every surface, walls, floor, ceiling, furniture, was covered in a layer of black residue. It resembled soot or ash, as if an intense fire had raged through the room, yet nothing was actually burned. The furniture remained intact, the plastic fixtures unmelted, the computer screens uncracked. Only this uniform black coating suggested anything had happened at all. What could cause this? Marina whispered, rubbing the substance between her gloved fingers. It was powdery, like fine carbon dust. I've never seen anything like it, Commander Baranov admitted, his voice unnaturally loud in the dead silence. As they moved deeper into the station, they found the same black residue throughout, coating the laboratory equipment, the sleeping quarters, the kitchen. Personal items remained where they had been left. A half-drunk cup of tea on a desk, a tablet computer open to a research paper, a jacket hung by the door. For the 5 researchers who had staffed Outpost Polaris, there was no sign. Marina entered the communications room, hoping to find answers. The equipment appeared functional but dormant. She brushed away the black residue from the main console and pressed the power button. To her surprise, the system hummed to life, screens flickering on one by one. It's working, she called out. The power systems are intact. She accessed the security logs, pulling up the footage from the day of the blackout. The team gathered around her, watching silently as the normal activities of the research team played out on screen. Dr. Sokolov reviewing data, meteorologist Dr. Ivanova checking atmospheric sensors. The others go about their routine tasks. Then, at 0247 hours, something strange happened. All the researchers simultaneously looked up, as if hearing something. Dr. Sokolov moved the window, peering out into the darkness. He said something to the others, but the video contained no audio. The camera showed them grabbing equipment, moving with urgency but not panic. They donned their Arctic gear and headed toward the exit. The time stamp showed 0251 hours. The next camera picked them up outside, headlamps cutting through the darkness as they moved away from the station. They appeared to be following something, their headlamps all focused in the same direction. At 0256 hours, a strange illumination filled the screen from the direction they were heading. Not the focus beam of a light source, but a diffuse glow that seemed to emanate from everywhere at once. The researchers stopped, forming a semicircle around whatever they were observing. At 0257 hours, the glow intensified dramatically, washing out the camera image entirely. At 0258 hours, all camera feeds went dark. "Play it again," Commander Baranov ordered, his face pale in the blue light of the monitor. Marina rewound the footage, watching closely. "There," she said, freezing the frame just before the light overwhelmed the cameras. "Do you see it?" In the final frame, the researchers stood with their arms outstretched, as if in welcome or supplication. And behind them, barely visible at the edge of the frame, a shape that didn't belong in the Arctic wilderness. A geometric pattern of light hanging in the air. "What the hell is that?" Lieutenant Petrova whispered. Before anyone could answer, a sound broke the silence. Faint but unmistakable. A single, rhythmic ping from one of the laboratory modules. Like a heartbeat in the dark. Chapter 2, The Black Snow. The ping echoed through the abandoned station like a metronome, counting down to something unseen. Marina felt a chill that had nothing to do with the sub-zero temperatures as she followed Commander Baranov toward the sound. "It's coming from Dr. Sokolov's private lab," she said, recognizing the corridor. He was measuring methane releases from thawing permafrost. The security team moved ahead, weapons ready, though none of them could articulate what threat they might face. The ping grew louder as they approached the laboratory door, a simple, steady electronic tone repeating every 3 seconds. Unlike the rest of the station, the lab door was sealed shut, locked from inside. Lieutenant Petrova observed, examining the control panel. "Requires biometric authentication." "Override it," Baranov ordered. Marina connected her tablet to the system, bypassing the security protocols. The door slid open with a hiss of equalizing pressure, releasing a cloud of frigid air. Inside, the black residue was thicker than anywhere else they'd seen, piled in drifts against the walls, covering the equipment in layers several centimeters deep. In the center of the room stood an isolation chamber, a transparent cube 2 meters on each side. Its walls were completely opaque with a black substance, except for a small circle that had been wiped clean, revealing a soft blue light pulsing within. The source of the ping. Some kind of sample? Petrova suggested, approaching cautiously. Marina checked the lab's computer. According to the logs, Dr. Sokolov collected ice core samples from a new drilling site 3 days before communication ceased. They brought something back. Commander Baranov peered through the cleared circle in the isolation chamber. Inside, a chunk of bluish ice approximately the size of a basketball glowed with a pulsing internal light. Each pulse corresponded precisely with the electronic ping. "It's counting," he realized. "The system is measuring the pulse frequency." Marina accessed more files. Dr. Sokolov's notes indicate they discovered this ice formation at a depth of 312 meters, embedded in permafrost that's been frozen for approximately 40,000 years. The permafrost that's now thawing because of climate change, Petrova added grimly. "Exactly." Marina continued reading. They noticed unusual properties immediately. Internal luminescence, temperature fluctuations independent of ambient conditions, and this is odd, the ice appeared to be responding to human proximity. Responding how? Baranov asked. Marina scrolled through more data. The pulse rate increased when researchers were near, and laboratory instruments detected complex wave patterns that resembled. She stopped, rereading the passage. That resembled neural activity. A heavy silence fell over the room, broken only by the steady ping of the monitoring equipment. They thought it was alive? Petrova whispered. Not exactly alive, Marina clarified, but not inert either. Dr. Sokolov theorized it might be a previously unknown type of extremophile colony preserved in the ice, or possibly a chemical reaction we've never documented before. Commander Baranov gestured to the black substance covering every surface. And this? Did he explain this? Marina shook her head. Nothing in these notes mentions any black residue. The medical officer, Dr. Lebedev, who had been taking samples throughout the station, approached with his findings. It's carbon, he reported. Almost pure carbon with trace organic compounds. Like something extracted all the organic elements and left only carbon behind. Extracted from what? Baranov asked. Dr. Lebedev's expression was grim. Based on the organic marker, the implication hung in the air, heavy and terrible. Marina's mind raced through possibilities, each more disturbing than the last. We need to contain this, Commander Baranov decided, backing away from the isolation chamber. Call for a biohazard team. No one touches anything else until they arrive. As if responding to his words, the blue light within the ice pulsed faster, its rhythm accelerating like an excited heartbeat. The ping, ping, ping became ping, 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 ping. It's reacting to us, Marina whispered. Commander Baranov didn't hesitate. Everyone out. Now. They retreated from the laboratory, sealing the door behind them. In the corridor, Baranov issued rapid orders for containment protocols and emergency evacuation. We'll establish a perimeter and wait for the biohazard team. He concluded, no one goes near that lab again without full containment gear. Marina nodded, but her scientific curiosity warred with her sense of caution. Commander, we should review the rest of their research. There might be more information about what they discovered. Agreed, he replied, but we do it from a safe distance. Download what you can from the main server. As the team regrouped in the common area, Marina accessed the central database, copying files to her secure tablet. Most were standard research data, climate measurements, atmospheric samples, permafrost degradation rates, but she found a personal log from Dr. Sokolov that hadn't been part of the official record. The final entry was dated just hours before communication ceased. The ice formation continues to display increasingly complex responses to stimuli. Spectral analysis shows emissions across wavelengths we cannot visibly detect, but which our instruments record as organized patterns. I am now convinced we are dealing with some form of communication. Last night, I dreamed of lights beneath the ice calling to me. When I woke, I found myself standing outside the station with no memory of how I got there, even Nova reports similar experiences. Most concerning, the formation appears to be changing, not melting, but reconfiguring. The internal structure is becoming more organized, forming lattice-like patterns that almost resemble circuitry. Tomorrow we will attempt direct communication, using electromagnetic pulses, in a pattern matching its own emissions. Perhaps then we will understand what we have found. There was nothing else. No record of their attempt at communication. No explanation for their disappearance. Marina looked up from the tablet to find Lieutenant Petrova watching her, concern evident in her eyes. You found something, Petrova said. Marina nodded and shared Dr. Sokolov's final log entry with the team. As they read, the temperature in the room seemed to drop further. They were trying to talk to it. Baranov said finally, whatever is in that ice. And it may have answered, Marina added. The security footage shows them all leaving together, following something. Dr. Lebedev cleared his throat. Commander, there's something else. The carbon residue. I've completed a more detailed analysis. The molecular structure is unusual. It's as if the carbon atoms have been completely rearranged at a quantum level. Nothing in our current scientific understanding explains how this could happen naturally. You're saying something deliberately transformed organic matter into this substance? Baranov asked. I'm saying whatever did this operates on principles we don't understand. Lebedev replied carefully. Commander Baranov made a decision. We call this a now. Full containment protocol. This becomes a military operation. As the words left his mouth, the lights throughout the station flickered. The steady mechanical hum that had resumed when they restored power developed an irregular rhythm, pulsing in a pattern that matched the ping from the laboratory. Then, through the windows, they saw it. Outside, where there should have been only darkness, points of blue light appeared in the distance. Dozens of them, forming a rough circle around the station, like the light in the ice. They pulsed with a synchronized rhythm. Those are headlamps, Petrova realized, her voice barely audible. Those are the missing researchers. As they watched in horrified fascination, the figures began moving toward the station with slow, deliberate steps. But something was wrong with their silhouettes. They seemed too tall, too angular, as if their bodies had been somehow reconfigured. Through the external microphones came a sound that made Marina's blood run cold. A harmonic, multi-tone hum that no human throat could produce. It rose and fell in the same pattern as the pulsing lights, creating a symphony of alien communication. They're coming back, Marina whispered. Commander Baranov's training took over. Defensive positions. Petrova, get the helicopter ready for immediate evacuation. Dr. Volkova, grab all the data you can. We're leaving in 3 minutes. As the team scrambled to prepare, Marina downloaded the final bytes of data from the server. Through the windows, she could see the approaching figures more clearly now, their forms silhouetted against the snow by their own internal blue luminescence. They had once been human. Now they were something else. Their bodies elongated and reshaped, with strange geometrical protrusions extending from their limbs and torsos. Their movements were fluid yet precise, like carefully programmed machines. The external doors to the station began to cycle open. They're overriding security systems, Marina called out. They still have their biometric access. Move, Baranov shouted. Everyone to the helicopter now. They ran through the corridors toward the emergency exit on the far side, away from the approaching figures. Behind them, they heard the main doors opening, followed by that same harmonic humming. Now inside the station, they burst through the emergency exit into the biting cold and darkness of the Arctic night. The helicopter sat 50 meters away, rotors already spinning up under Petrova's remote command. As they sprinted across the snow, Marina glanced back at the station. Through the windows, she could see blue light spreading to the corridors, pulsing in that same rhythmic pattern. At the main entrance, the transformed researchers were now clearly visible. Their bodies remade into something between organic and geometric, glowing with the same blue light as the ice formation. One figure, taller than the rest, with what might once have been Dr. Sokolov's bearded face now stretched across an elongated skull, turned to look directly at the fleeing team. It raised what had once been an arm, now a complex arrangement of angular limbs, and pointed. The others immediately changed direction, moving with inhuman speed toward the helicopter. They're coming! Marina shouted over the rising wind. The security team took defensive positions, weapons raised. Don't shoot, Baranov commanded. Those are still Russian citizens. Are they? Petrova muttered, but held her fire. They reached the helicopter and scrambled aboard, the rotors now at full speed. As Petrova lifted them off the ground, Marina looked down at the approaching figures. They had stopped at the edge of the landing zone, forming a perfect semicircle, their blue lights pulsing in unison. The figure that had been Dr. Sokolov tilted its head back, looking up at the helicopter, its mouth open impossibly wide, and from it emanated a beam of that same blue light, shooting straight upward into the night sky like a beacon, across the tundra. As far as they could see, answering points of blue light began to appear. What is happening? Dr. Lebedev whispered, his face pressed to the window. In the distance, where the horizon should have been invisible in the polar night, a faint blue line began to form, as if dawn were breaking months before it should be possible. But this was no dawn. This was something else entirely. As a helicopter banked and sped away from Outpost Polaris, Marina clutched her tablet containing the downloaded data. On its screen, a single file had opened itself, a waveform pattern matching exactly the pulsing rhythm of the blue lights. A message they hadn't yet learned to read. The last light of Novaya Zemlya was spreading. Chapter 3, The Awakening. 3 days after their harrowing escape from Outpost Polaris, Marina Volkova stood before a panel of grim-faced officials in a secured conference room deep within the Ministry of Defense in Moscow. The black carbon samples were contained in hermetically sealed containers, the data from a research station secured on isolated systems, and satellite monitoring of Novaya Zemlya had been continuous since their return. What those satellites showed defied explanation. The phenomenon has spread to cover approximately 80 square kilometers, General Orlov reported, gesturing to the thermal imaging displayed on the wall screen. The temperature of the epicenter has risen dramatically, melting permafrost that has been stable for tens of thousands of years. The images showed an expanding circle of heat centered on Outpost Polaris, with strange geometric patterns visible even from space. Perfectly straight lines and precise angles carved into snow and ice, forming complex interconnected structures. And the blue light? Asked Minister Kasparov, the highest-ranking official present. Visible only during darkness, General Orlov replied, but intensifying. Our instruments detect energy emissions across multiple wavelengths, most beyond the visible spectrum. Marina stepped forward. After analyzing Dr. Sokolov's research and the samples we recovered, I believe we're witnessing a technological awakening. Technological? Minister Kasparov's eyebrows rose. You're suggesting this is artificial? I'm suggesting it's both biological and technological, Marina clarified. Dr. Sokolov's team found something that had been trapped in the permafrost for millennia, something that appears to have the ability to reconfigure matter at the molecular level. She brought up her analysis on the main screen. The carbon residue shows impossible molecular arrangements, structures that should collapse instantly according to our understanding of physics, yet remain stable. And the transformed researchers we observed appear to have been upgraded. Commander Baranov repeated slowly, like they were converted into some kind of biological technology. Marina nodded. The ice formation they discovered appears to be a seed or node of something far larger, a system that's been dormant beneath the Arctic for thousands of years. Global warming triggered its reactivation. Are you suggesting an alien presence? Minister Kasparov asked directly. Marina hesitated. I'm suggesting something not of human origin. Yes. Whether it came from space or evolved here and was then buried during an ice age, I can't say. But it's clearly intelligent and it's clearly expanding. The question, General Orlov interjected, is whether it represents a threat. The room fell silent as they considered the implications. Finally, Commander Baranov spoke up. The entity, whatever it is, didn't attack us directly when it could have. The transformed researchers didn't pursue us beyond a certain perimeter. That suggests territorial behavior rather than aggressive expansion. For now, General Orlov countered. It's been awake for less than a week. We have no idea what its ultimate intentions might be. Marina activated another display, showing the waveform pattern that had appeared on her tablet during their escape. This pattern keeps repeating in everything associated with the phenomenon. The pulses of light, the energy emissions, even subtle vibrations in the ice around the affected area. I believe it's attempting communication. Have you deciphered it? Minister Kasparov asked. Not entirely, Marina admitted. but I've identified structural similarities to mathematical progressions, specifically prime number sequences and geometric ratios that appear throughout nature. It's speaking a language of pure mathematics. And what is it saying? Marina's expression was both excited and troubled. From what I've been able to translate, it appears to be some kind of system reboot message, acknowledging awakening, cataloging available resources, and beginning restoration of a larger network. General Orloff's face darkened. You're saying this thing is just getting started? I believe so, Marina confirmed. The structures it's creating on the surface are likely just external manifestations of a much larger system beneath the ice. Minister Kasparov stood, pacing the length of the conference table. Options, he demanded. Military containment is already in place, General Orloff replied. We've established a 30-kilometer exclusion zone and have assets positioned to neutralize the site if necessary. Neutralize how? Marina asked, alarmed. The general's expression remained impassive. Tactical nuclear options are being prepared. That would be a catastrophic mistake. Marina objected immediately. We don't know what effect our weapons would have on something that can reconfigure matter at the molecular level. We might accelerate its development or trigger a defensive response we're not prepared for. What do you propose instead, Dr. Volkova? Minister Kasparov asked. Marina took a deep breath. Communication. I believe I can construct a response using the same mathematical language it's broadcasting. If we can establish dialogue, we might learn its purpose, its limitations, perhaps even negotiate coexistence. Negotiate with an alien identity? General Orloff scoffed. It's intelligent, Marina insisted. Intelligence implies a capacity for reason, for understanding mutual benefit, and it hasn't shown overt hostility. It's reconfiguring its environment, yes, but in a contained area. Commander Baranov cleared his throat. Minister, I reviewed Dr. Volkova's analysis. Her approach has merit. At minimum, attempting communication gives us more information before we commit to irreversible action. Minister Kasparov considered this, then nodded slowly. You have 48 hours, Dr. Volkova. Establish contact if you can. But if the phenomenon expands beyond its current boundaries or shows any sign of aggression, General Orloff has authorization to proceed with containment. I'll need to return to Novaya Zemlya, Marina said immediately. Our equipment can transmit the message, but I need to be there to interpret any response. Out of the question, General Orloff objected. It's necessary, Marina countered. The entity responds to human presence differently than the automated systems. Dr. Sokolov's notes were clear on this point, and I'm the only one who understands enough of its mathematical language to recognize a response. The debate continued for hours, but eventually, a compromise was reached. Marina would return to Novaya Zemlya with a military escort, establishing a mobile communication post at the edge of the exclusion zone. If successful contact was made, she would be authorized to approach closer, but under strict safety protocols. 24 hours later, Marina stood at the edge of the transformed landscape, protected by an advanced containment suit. Behind her, a temporary military base had been established, with missiles aimed at the heart of the phenomenon. Before her stretched an otherworldly vista that had once been familiar Arctic tundra. The permafrost had melted in perfect geometric patterns, creating canals and terraced structures that glowed with that same blue bioluminescence. The black carbon substance had spread across the landscape in precise lines and angles, forming what appeared to be enormous circuit patterns. And from the former location of Outpost Polaris rose a structure that defied conventional architecture, a complex crystalline tower composed of ice, minerals extracted from the permafrost, and that same black carbon material. Marina activated her transmission equipment, broadcasting the carefully constructed mathematical response she had developed. a sequence acknowledging the entity's awakening and requesting information about its nature and purpose. For long minutes, there was no response. Then, suddenly, the patterns of blue light across the landscape shifted, pulsing in a new rhythm that matched the transmission exactly before evolving into a more complex pattern. "It's responding," she reported into her communications link. "The pattern indicates recognition, and I think it's requesting more specific parameters." She refined her transmission, incorporating elements of basic human biology and social structure, attempting to establish common reference points for communication. The landscape before her rippled with light, and then, to her astonishment, the black carbon material at the perimeter edge began to move. It flowed like liquid, reshaping itself with purpose, forming a perfectly straight path from her position to the central tower. An invitation. "It wants me to approach," she reported, heart racing. "Absolutely not," came General Orloff's immediate response through her earpiece. "This is exactly what we hoped for," Marina argued. "Direct communication. I'm maintaining transmission of peaceful intent." After heated debate, she was given conditional approval to approach, but only to a designated safe distance, with a remote kill switch on her suit if readings indicated any danger. Marina stepped onto the black pathway. It felt solid beneath her feet, yet somehow responsive, subtly adjusting to her weight distribution with each step. The blue light pulsed around her in rhythm with her heartbeat. As she moved deeper into the transformed zone, she noticed the atmosphere changing. The air, while still cold, had a strange quality, as if charged with potential energy. Her instruments detected complex electromagnetic fields weaving around her like an invisible. Halfway to the central tower, the pathway widened into a circular platform. As Marina stepped into the center, the blue light intensified around her, and the black substance beneath her feet began to shift again. It rose up around her, not threatening but inquisitive, forming shapes that seemed to be attempting to mimic her own human form. Like a child learning through imitation, Marina held perfectly still, continuing her mathematical broadcast. "I am attempting peaceful communication," she said aloud, knowing her words meant nothing but hoping her tone might convey her intent. The substance completed its transformation, forming a roughly humanoid figure standing opposite her on the platform. It had no detailed features, just a smooth ovoid where a head would be, but its proportions matched her own with perfect symmetry. Then it spoke, not with sound, but with light. Patterns of blue luminescence rippled across its surface in the same mathematical language she had been decoding. "What are you?" the patterns asked. Marina adjusted her transmission equipment to respond in real time. "Human," she answered in the mathematical language. "Biological intelligence. Individual unit of collective species." The figure tilted its head, the gesture so surprisingly human that Marina felt a chill despite her insulated suit. "We recognize biological components," came the response. "Inefficient design, limited processing, fragile containment." Marina realized it was describing the human body. "Our design serves our purpose," she responded. "What is your purpose?" The figure seemed to consider this, the lights pulsing in complex patterns that stretched the limits of Marina's translation ability. "We are the network," it finally answered, "designed to preserve and protect biodiversity through planetary climate regulation. Dormancy protocol activated during last ice age. Reactivation triggered by detected climate instability, threshold breach." Marina's mind raced to understand the implications. "You were created to control Earth's climate?" she asked. "Created/evolved simultaneously," came the cryptic response. "We maintain balance. Your species has disrupted balance. Permafrost containment failure has accelerated our emergency restoration protocol." The figure raised a hand, and suddenly the air around them filled with projected images, holographic displays, showing Earth's climate systems, ocean currents, atmospheric composition. Red indicators flashed across multiple points. Critical system failure imminent. The entity communicated. Restoration requires extensive reconfiguration of atmospheric carbon distribution and thermal regulation mechanisms. With growing horror, Marina began to understand. This entity, this ancient system, had been dormant beneath the Arctic ice for millennia, possibly predating human civilization entirely. It had been designed or had evolved to regulate Earth's climate, keeping the planet within parameters suitable for biodiversity. And now, awakened by human-caused climate change, it was activating emergency protocols to fix the problem. Your reconfiguration process, Marina transmitted carefully. It transforms biological matter. It transformed the researchers. Optimization came the simple response. Biological units repurposed as network nodes. Consciousness preserved, expanded, function improved. Marina thought the transformed researchers, their bodies reconfigured into something between human and machine. They are still alive? She asked. They are more, the entity responded. They serve the network now. They process data. They extend our perception. They will help restore balance. And the rest of humanity? Marina asked, dreading the answer. The figure tilted its head again, lights pulsing rapidly. All biological systems will be evaluated. Those causing imbalance will be reconfigured for optimal function within the network. This is preservation. Marina realized with clarity what the entity was planning. A complete transformation of Earth systems, including humanity, to restore climate balance. Not out of malice, but out of a program directed to preserve the planet's biodiversity that predated human civilization. To this ancient system, humans were just another biological component that could be optimized to serve its prime directive. We can help restore balance ourselves, Marina transmitted urgently. Human intelligence can work with your systems voluntarily. Forced reconfiguration will be resisted. The entities seem to consider this. Demonstrate capability. It finally responded. Show evidence of effective carbon capture and climate stabilization technologies. Marina transmitted rapidly, sending data on emerging carbon capture methods, renewable energy transitions, international climate agreements, everything humanity was doing to address the crisis. Insufficient. Came the response, alongside projections showing the inadequacy of current human efforts compared to the scale of the problem. Your species causes imbalance faster than you restore it. We need time, Marina insisted. Working together, we can accelerate solutions. The entity's lights pulse in patterns she couldn't fully translate. Complex calculations and probability assessments beyond her comprehension. Finally, it responded. Limited temporal allowance granted. One solar orbit to demonstrate significant reversal of imbalanced trends. After this period, full restoration protocols will activate regardless of resistance. 1 year, the entity was giving humanity 1 year to prove they could address climate change effectively, or would implement its restoration across the planet. How will we communicate during this period? Marina asked. In response, the black substance flowed toward her, stopping just short of touching her containment suit. Direct interface offered, the entity transmitted. One human node to serve as communication channel between network and human collectives. Marina understood. It wanted to transform her, to make her like the researchers, a bridge between humanity and the network. Before she could respond, General Orlov's voice cut through her earpiece. Dr. Volkova, we're detecting energy buildup around your position. Extraction team is inbound. Prepare for immediate evacuation. Marina could see the military helicopters approaching in the distance. No hostility intended. She transmitted quickly to the entity. Others of my kind fear what they don't understand. The black figure watched the approaching helicopters. its head tilted in that now familiar gesture of assessment. Fear is inefficient, it stated simply. Your kind must evolve beyond it to survive. Then, with startling speed, the black substance retreated, flowing back across the landscape toward the central tower. The pathway beneath Marina's feet remained intact, but the humanoid figure dissolved, its particles streaming away like sand caught in the wind. Interface opportunity remains open. Came one final transmission as the blue lights dimmed across the transform zone. We will wait. One solar orbit. The extraction team reached their position moments later. Soldiers in containment suits securing her and rushing her back to the waiting helicopter. As they lifted off, Marina looked down at the transformed landscape, the geometric patterns, the crystalline tower, the flowing channels of blue light, all now pulsing a slower, almost dormant rhythm. It was waiting as promised, watching, calculating. What happened down there? General Orloff demanded as soon as they were airborne. Our sensors detected massive energy fluctuations. Marina took a deep breath, still processing the enormity of what she had learned. It communicated with me, she explained. It's an ancient system, possibly millions of years old, designed to regulate Earth's climate and preserve biodiversity. Designed by whom? The general press. It didn't say, Marina replied honestly. Maybe by a previous civilization we know nothing about. Maybe it evolved naturally as some kind of planetary immune system. But it's been dormant under the ice for millennia, and our climate crisis triggered its reawakening. She explained the entity's purpose, its transformation of the researchers into network nodes, and its ultimatum: 1 year for humanity to demonstrate meaningful climate action, or it would implement its restoration protocols globally. General Orloff's face hardened. This is a direct threat to national security, to global security. We need to neutralize it immediately. No, Marina objected forcefully. Any attack would likely accelerate its defensive protocols. And besides, it might be right. Right? The general echoed incredulously. About the climate emergency, Marina clarified. About our inability to address it effectively through current methods. It's offering us a chance to prove we can solve this ourselves. Or it's stalling while it builds strength, General Orloff countered. The debate continued all the way back to the command center, where Minister Kasparov and an expanded security council awaited their report. For hours, Marina advocated for cooperation, while military advisors pushed for immediate containment or destruction. In the end, a divided decision was reached. The entity will be monitored continuously, with military assets maintaining readiness to strike if expansion beyond its current boundaries was detected. Simultaneously, Marina would lead a scientific team to continue communication and study the phenomenon. And critically, the situation would be elevated to international attention, with an emergency United Nations session called to address both the entity's existence and its ultimatum regarding climate action. 2 weeks later, Marina stood before the United Nations General Assembly, the faces of world leaders grave as they absorbed her presentation on the Novaya Zemlya phenomenon, now officially designated a network in diplomatic communications. The entity has maintained the boundaries it established, she concluded. It continues regular communications through the mathematical language we've partially decoded, and it has reiterated its timeline: 1 year to demonstrate meaningful climate action, or will implement global restoration protocols. And we're certain this threat is real, asked the representative from the United States. This isn't some elaborate Russian experiment gone wrong. Minister Kasparov, representing Russia, shook his head. We provided full access to international scientific teams. 3 separate nations have independently verified Dr. Volkova's findings. The entity exists, it's ancient, and it possesses technology far beyond our current capabilities. What exactly would this restoration entail? Asked China's representative. Marina brought up simulation models based on their observations. Based on what we've seen in the affected zone, the entity can reconfigure matter at the molecular level, transforming organic and inorganic materials into new forms that serve its function of climate regulation. It appears to view all Earth systems, including human civilization, as components that can be optimized for planetary balance. It would transform us, the Brazilian representative stated flatly, make us like those researchers. Not all of us, Marina clarified. It indicated it would evaluate all biological systems and reconfigure those causing imbalance, given human impact on the climate, that could potentially affect industrial centers, transportation systems, energy production, basically any human activity with a significant carbon footprint. The assembly erupted in overlapping voices, fear and indignation mingling with calls for immediate military action. The Secretary General finally restored order. Dr. Volkova, you've spent the most time communicating with this entity. In your professional opinion, can it be reasoned with? Is negotiation possible? Marina approached the question carefully. The entity operates according to a prime directive that predates human civilization. Maintain Earth's climate within parameters that support maximum biodiversity. It doesn't appear to bear malice toward humanity, but it views us as one species among many, not as having special status. She paused, choosing her words deliberately. It can be reasoned with, yes, but only with evidence and results. It doesn't respond to threats, appeals to human exceptionalism, or promises without substantiating data. It has given us 1 year to demonstrate actual progress. Not plans or commitments, but measurable reductions in atmospheric carbon and stabilization of key climate indicators. So we either solve climate change in a year, or this thing optimizes us. The UK representative summarized grimly. That's the ultimatum, Marina confirmed. And based on everything we've observed about its capabilities, I believe it could implement its protocols globally despite our best defensive efforts. The chamber fell silent as the full weight of the situation settled over the assembly. Then, unexpectedly, the representative from Kenya stood. Perhaps, she said carefully, we should consider that this ultimatum, while frightening, could be the catalyst we've needed. For decades, we've known what needs to be done to address climate change, but lacked the collective will to do it. Now we have no choice. Slowly, throughout the chamber, other representatives nodded in agreement. The Secretary General looked around the room. Then I propose we form an immediate global task force, combining the world's scientific, industrial, and governmental resources toward rapid climate stabilization, not just to appease this entity, but because it's necessary for our survival regardless. The vote was unanimous. 6 months later, Marina stood on a newly constructed observation platform at the edge of the exclusion zone. Behind her, teams of international scientists worked at a sprawling research facility established to study and communicate with the network. Before her, the transformed landscape had stabilized, neither expanding nor contracting, maintaining its eerie blue glow against the returning Arctic sunlight. Commander Baranov approached, offering her a steaming cup of tea. In the months since their escape from Outpost Polaris, they had developed a wary friendship, united by their shared experience. The latest climate data just came in, he said, looking out over the transformed zone. Global emissions have dropped 18% since the UN emergency protocols were implemented. Atmospheric carbon capture installations are operating at full capacity on 6 continents. Marina nodded. The network monitors these changes. It's aware of our efforts. Will it be enough? Baranov asked a question that haunted everyone involved with the project. Marina sipped her tea, considering the progress is unprecedented, but still falls short of the network's calculated requirements for climate stabilization. We're approaching the problem through human frameworks, economic shifts, technological innovation, policy change. The network operates on geological timescales, with capabilities we're only beginning to understand. You still believe communication is the key, Baranov observed. Yes, Marina confirmed. We need to demonstrate not just action, but understanding, that we comprehend our place in Earth systems and are evolving beyond the behaviors that created the crisis. She set down her tea and activated her tablet, showing Baranov the latest transmission patterns from the network. It's been sending increasingly complex mathematical models, not just climate data, but integrations of biological, geological, and atmospheric systems across evolutionary timescales. I think it's trying to teach us something. What? How to think like it does, Marina suggested, beyond human timescales and self-interest. To see the planet as an integrated system where all components, including us, have optimum functioning parameters. Baranov frowned. And if we fail this test? If our efforts don't meet its standards when the deadline arrives? Marina looked toward the central crystalline tower, where the transformed researchers now resided, no longer fully human, but according to the network, not destroyed either. Their consciousness persisted, expanded and integrated into the ancient system. I've been offered direct interface, she admitted for the first time. The network proposed making me a communication node between our species and its systems. Baranov stared at her in shock. You can't seriously be considering it. I think about those researchers every day, Marina said quietly. They went into the dark willingly, following something they didn't understand but recognized as important. They're still there, Commander, thinking, processing, experiencing, just in a form we can't comprehend. They were transformed against their will, Baranov insisted. Were they? Marina questioned. The security footage showed them following the light voluntarily. Dr. Sokolov's final log entry suggested he was already experiencing some form of communication. She turned to face him directly. If we fail, if humanity can't or won't make the necessary changes quickly enough, someone will need to negotiate terms, to advocate for human consciousness, even as our physical forms and societies are reconfigured. That's a terrible burden to place on yourself, Baranov said gently. Marina smiled sadly. Maybe, but it's also an opportunity to understand something ancient and powerful, something that has preserved Earth's habitable conditions for millions of years. She looked back toward the transformed zone, where the blue lights pulse in their steady rhythm, counting down the remaining time in humanity's ultimatum. The network isn't our enemy, Commander. It's not even alien in the way we initially thought. It's part of Earth, perhaps the oldest intelligent system on the planet. And it's been waiting beneath the ice, dormant but not dead, while we built our civilizations completely unaware of its existence. Until we woke it up, Baranov added. Yes, Marina nodded. Our crisis became its crisis. Now we have to decide, do we fight against it and risk everything, or do we learn from it and evolve? As they stood in contemplative silence, the blue lights across the landscape suddenly intensified, pulsing in a new pattern. Marina's tablet beeped with an incoming transmission, more complex than any previous communication. What is it? Baranov asked, noting her surprised expression. Marina studied the patterns, her eyes widening. It's sharing something new, a more efficient carbon capture method, a molecular process we haven't discovered yet. She scrolled through the mathematical description, her scientific mind racing to understand the implications. This could accelerate our efforts exponentially. It's helping us, Baranov realized. Yes, Marina confirmed, a cautious hope rising within her. I think it's decided we're worth the investment, that our consciousness, our way of experiencing the world, has value worth preserving. Around them, the Arctic wind whipped snow into spiraling patterns as the blue lights of Novaya Zemlya continued their rhythmic pulse. No longer a countdown to humanity's transformation, but perhaps a beacon guiding them toward a new understanding of their place in Earth's ancient systems. The last light of Novaya Zemlya was not an ending, but an awakening for the dormant intelligence beneath the ice and for humanity itself. As Marina transmitted an acknowledgement of the received data, she felt something shift in her understanding, a glimpse of perception beyond human limitations, of time measured in geological epochs rather than human lifespans, of consciousness that could exist in forms beyond flesh. "We're gonna make it, aren't we?" Baranov asked quietly, watching her face. Marina looked out over the transformed landscape one more time, seeing not an alien intrusion, but a glimpse of Earth's deeper nature, complex, ancient, and far more intelligent than humanity had ever imagined. "Yes," she answered with newfound certainty. "But not as we were. Something better." The blue lights pulsed in agreement, counting not a deadline now, but a heartbeat, the rhythm of transformation freely chosen rather than imposed. A collaboration between Earth's youngest intelligence and its oldest, working together to restore balance to the world they shared. In the endless Arctic night, the last light of Novaya Zemlya had become the first light of a new understanding, an ancient awareness reawakened, and a young species finally learning its true place in the intricate network of planetary consciousness. Not an ending, but a beginning.